I feel like I'm living through COVID again. So I'm reading this article by my man Ben Carlson, Wealth and Common Sense. And I like Ben. I like his stuff. The level of, not inconsistency, hyperbole is mind-boggling to me. And the lack of just knowledge. It's crazy to me, man. So I remember during COVID, when COVID first came around, everyone and their mom was freaking out about lack of ventilation. I had this guy, a right-wing guy too. He used to support me financially. I've said this guy a million times, and I'm not going to mention him, but his son was in the Navy. His son says, if we don't have ventilators, millions of people, not millions, but so many people are going to die from COVID. And I was like, what? And he said, my son's in the Navy. He knows. And I'll never forget, there's this ER doctor in Brooklyn. He said, the ventilators, I don't think are helping. I think are hurting. I'll never forget this. And this guy was an ER doc in Brooklyn saying this. And then he got sent packing, essentially, basically sent to the mailroom. How dare you challenge the ventilators? And it turns out many people were put on ventilators who shouldn't be. But I'll never forget this guy, this right winger. He's like, your stance on COVID is going to cause the deaths of many people. I said, what? It was crazy, man. And then we went back to the PCR test. And what's his name? Casey Mullis, I think, who invented the PCR test, says the PCR test will find whatever you want to find. He said the PCR test, and he used to bash Fauci, and this guy died. Did he win a Nobel Prize for it? I think he might have, actually. He's the guy who invented the PCR test. He goes, just because you have a positive PCR test, you have to look at how do you get to that, and no one cared. And then we had people with IFR, the infection fatality rate, were literally saying it's going to be a 5 to 10% IFR. I was like, this is insanity. I literally couldn't believe it. I'm sitting there like banging then we had, never mind the mask people. I said, I literally was like banging my head against the wall saying, can people wake up? This is insane. It was insanity. And then we had the guy from Neil Ferguson from the Imperial College of London. He was saying, oh, millions and millions of people are going to die. And then you just look at his track record. He was like 0-16. I said, why would we listen to a head coach on an 0-16, perpetual 0-16 team who's going to say this is the team we need to have in the future? And COVID went on, that level of absurdity went on for literally years. And I was sitting there just banging my head against the wall saying, how can people fall for this? It's insane. In terms of the hyperbole that they were saying. I'm not saying COVID was not dastardly. I mean, I had COVID. It sucked. It's a severe flu, just like Fauci said in February 2000 in his New England Journal of Medicine article. And I feel like the same thing when it comes to tariffs. So this guy, Ben Carlson, writes, it's economic suicide to pursue this tariff policy. And he has this graph. He has this graph. He shows after Smoot-Hawley, we had global trade leveled off. Before Smoot-Hawley, we had massive global trade. After Smoot-Hawley, we had global trade level off. And then after World War II, we had massive trade again. I'm like, huh? What happened from after basically post-Civil War? We had massive tariffs in the United States. Massive tariffs. We had massive tariffs from basically 1870 to 1913. The Federal Reserve came on board. We started losing a little bit of tariffs because we had an income tax. Ford came along in 1922. We had massive tariffs again. Massive tariffs were so high that Smoot-Hawley seemed like nothing. Smoot-Hawley, the average tariff was about 20%. 20% tariffs, but previous to that was like nothing. It's like a drop in the bucket. We had 50% tariffs, 50% effective tariff rate under Dingley Tariff Act. And yet we had massive global trading. We had massive growth in economic output in the United States. Manufacturing dominated. And I tell you again, these anti-tariff guys who write about this, but they don't put two and two together. They say, they try to. They say, it wasn't because of tariffs that economic output exploded in the United States, manufacturing exploded in the United States. It was because of other things. That's fine. Okay. But, we can say that all day long. But then you can't turn around and say, it was because of tariffs that we had global trade that just fell off a cliff. That doesn't make any sense. Global trade exploded in a tariff regime. Global trade leveled off. You can argue during a tariff regime, but you can't say one happened because of this and the other one did not happen because of this. It's insane. And yet these guys, they don't even know. The problem is they don't even know about the Dingley, the McKinley tariff, the Fordney tariff. They don't know. They just use one piece of evidence as all inclusive for all things. Tariffs are bad. Why? Because tariffs happen to coincide with Great Depression. I'm like, but we had tariffs well before that. Oh, no, well, no. They're just ignorant of it. Or they're lying. Either way. It's like the same thing with Neil Ferguson's 0-16 football team saying we should listen to what Neil Ferguson says for the future because his football team in the last 25 years has been so successful at 0-16. And yet people are like, oh, Neil Ferguson. I'm like, well, we have an infant mortality rate. We have a infection fatality rate of 5 to 10%. Why? Because we have Italy had 10 people had freaking COVID and 5 died. I mean, we had 10 people, 100 people had COVID and 5 died. But and even the Italian public minister of health or whatever said, yeah, basically, if you have COVID and you die, we're going to say COVID caused a death. You're like, but COVID didn't cause a death. Now, we don't care. If you have COVID and you die, we're saying COVID caused a death. It was insane. And the same thing's happening now. But the problem is my industry, I expect to be better at this. And they're just not. And the reason is because my industry is Wall Street. All right, unfortunately. And Wall Street hates tariffs because tariffs hurt Wall Street. Tariffs help middle America, Main Street, and they hurt Wall Street. This is exactly what's happened in the past, and it's what's happening now, is that Wall Street is going to bear the burden of tariffs, and they don't like it. And so they're going to be frantic as all they can be to say, oh my goodness, tariffs are bad, bad, bad. And yet it just, the evidence is so other than that people are just going to have to figure it out on their own, I suppose. But they don't want to because the wealthy control the mics, unfortunately. And the mic is, thankfully, you got YouTube. And I don't know, at some point, YouTube might banish me for talking about terrorists the way they did with COVID. But the facts are the wealthy have got the mics, and the mics have more reach than just some guy in his freaking, in the Krispy Kreme parking lot waiting to get my 4 cinnamon rolls because we're having a cheat day for Lent. But anyway, just common sense, man. It's frustrating. I'm not literally, but theoretically, let's see, whatever it is. Let's say opposite of literally, like hypothetically. No, anyway, I'm banging my head against the wall saying I cannot believe people can't see the second point of this. Or the other side of this is crazy. So I'll keep doing it. All right. God bless. We'll see you.